Welcome to WSABE 2014 Excellence in Innovation webinar. The WSABE webinar series hosted by Champion Legal every Wednesday from 4 p.m. in the lead up to the WSABE Awards. Today our guests are Damon Hanshaw from Davies, Collison and Cave. Welcome, Damon.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Anthony Carroll from Yellow Sneakers. Welcome, Anthony.
Hello, how are you doing?
Hi. So, Damon, you've been helping people for a number of years with patents and looking at innovations in technology. Could you tell us a little bit about your background and your passion for innovation?
Yeah, sure. I guess background is from a long time ago, physics, but I do more general mechanical for manufacturing and engineering style technologies now. And I like to get in there early when companies are starting to develop new innovative solutions to problems they see in their industry, get in early and help them secure appropriate protection to try and basically maximise their rights and their market position. And then going forward, hopefully entering overseas markets as well, and pretty much being lockstep with their needs, their intellectual property needs, as their business needs develop as well. So innovation, obviously, it's absolutely imperative and critical from an intellectual property point of view, and it helps businesses get competitive advantage. And so I'm coming from a science background. I'm very much interested in seeing local businesses, do well on the international stage, and on the back of some good, solid research, development, and innovative business ideas. So that's it in a nutshell, as far as sort of the role I play in helping those businesses improve market position.
I noticed that you're a member of the Sydney Angels. Is there any opportunity for a Parramatta or perhaps the Western Sydney Angels branch opening up soon?
Yeah, that's entirely possible. I think there have been a couple of organisations that have sort of loosely tried to start something up. But Sydney Angels is it's a very well put together and well organised group. So if that model can be recreated around the Parramatta or GWS region, then yeah, absolutely. Most of the GWS region is pretty much the centre of manufacturing and engineering. So as far as and there's also IT and ICT sort of innovation coming out of there as well. So yeah, it's certainly right for that sort of thing. The Sydney Angels Group is basically an early stage investment vehicle for people who are interested in startup and entrepreneurial businesses, and providing I guess a financial hand and also mentoring to help those businesses succeed.
Great, it would be great to see one out here, I think. Now, Anthony, if you can tell us a little bit about your history and background. I noticed from your website that you're all into the game-changing ideas, and I love the words disruption, industry disruption. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you've come from, and why disruption is such a good thing for business?
Yeah, it's an interesting word, isn't it? It's a scary word for most people. My background is marketing, having worked in a couple of ad agencies on the Optus account, Smirnoff, NRMA, and then I became the brand manager for LJ Hooker corporate head office. In 2006, we rolled out $10 million rebrand across 700 franchises, Australia, New Zealand, India and China, and then decided to take that knowledge and skill and turn it into my own consultancy and agency. And yeah, disruption, innovation, creativity, they go hand in hand. If you have a look at the marketplace today, for instance, Airbnb have now disrupted the whole accommodation industry, whereas 2-3 years ago no one would have heard of them. So within 2 or 3 years they've actually capitalised Lonely Planet had the market phone up for young travellers. Digital age hit, and they got left behind. And what has come in place is now a company called TripAdvisor. They have more subscribers than anyone in terms of travel, and they're the go-to people to find out what's happening around the world. So looking at destination reviews, airline reviews, hospitality, the whole gamut. TripAdvisor has become the place to go first and then to understand. Whereas Lonely Planet had that. Remember the Lonely Planet books you used to throw in your backpack and travel from country to country? Well, TripAdvisor put it all into an app and made it a lot easier for people.
Just amazing, isn't it? I remember a world before the internet. But some of our listeners are taught. And now it's all about apps, not even about the internet. So what I might do is just jump forward a couple of slides and get stuck into this conversation, because I can tell it's going to be an interesting one. I'll just jump through here. So today our agenda, obviously we'll just have a quick review of our key dates that are coming up, and we're going to go through the questions that will be presented to our entrants in the WSABE Awards for this year, a little bit about your entry, and of course inspiration, sharing and knowledge. So key dates, entries open May 1. We've had all the fun launches and sponsors meetings, which have been great. Good to see everybody at them. But mark in your diaries, May 1. Entries are open and entries close June 26th. And of course, the very special gala night. So award winners, finalists, sponsors, just people generally interested. Make sure you mark that into your diary. It'll be a great night. So excellence in innovation. How does your business react to change? How your business acquires an understanding of emerging customer needs. Really important core questions for every size business. Damon, how does your business react to change?
Slowly. As far as our business goes, we're quite proactive in identifying new markets, establishing a presence in those markets, keeping at the forefront of what's happening in intellectual property, locally and internationally as well. And we also, play quite a role in educating people as well, both through universities and standard legal courses, through to hosting seminars. So throughout that whole spectrum, our business is always on the lookout for, new opportunities, and also sort of reassessing exactly what we're doing and whether that's providing value as well.
And Anthony, you're one of the people that creates change when you go to an organisation. How do you find that most people that you work with react to change?
Yeah, change is an interesting word. No one likes to change. It can be, again, we use that word disruptive. It can be disruptive to them. But I guess what we try and do is focus them on really what their main focus should be, and that is their customer. And the customer at the end of the day will tell you what they want. And while, Steve Jobs has famously said, don't ask the customer what they want, because by the time you get around to making it, they'll change their minds. I think it's understanding the behaviour and their habits. And I think if you start from that point of view, you will then start to build on a platform of, where they headed, who predicted, it's only 5-6 years ago that we got the iPhone. Yet it feels like it's been around for, 10, 20 years, whereas it was only 6 years ago. The App Store is 6 years old this year, and yet they're so intrinsic in our lives that we forget what we did without phones. So I guess what we try and focus clients on is understanding their customers, understanding how their product or service will fit within the the lifestyle or the habits or behaviours of their customers, because I call it undisruption. The last thing you want to do now is introduce something that doesn't fit within the realms of what they're doing already. You want to create a bit of traction and promotion and see what get people to notice you, but you don't want to interrupt them, because if they have to learn something new or they have to start all over again, then they're just going to turn off. And I think that's key. So understanding where the marketplace is, that's our job, and then educating our clients about their clients. it makes it interesting.
So Damon, like with such a long lead time to getting some products to market, have you ever had an issue where, you know, a client had a great understanding of emerging customer needs but was only pipped at the post by a change in, I don't know, even an election change? I mean, we noticed last year in Western Sydney how with the focus on Western Sydney, it was all about, you know, the area, but then the election was off, it seemed to fade away until recently. So people might have, you know, when you're trying to understand your client needs, but then society or something causes an interruption, as Anthony was saying. Have you ever had a client in that situation, and how have they handled it to get themselves back on the front foot again?
Not really. Generally, clients have a very good understanding of the landscape of the market they're operating in, so any changes usually sort of reasonably well forecast. And most of my clients don't necessarily work within a framework that regulatory changes are necessarily going to impact that much. That's essentially my client base, but there are others that could be subject to sort of catastrophic change. For example, in the pharmaceutical industry, in the biotech industry, if all of a sudden things are excluded from patent protection, for example, then that has a really drastic outcome on their whole business model, and yeah, it could be terminal to a lot of businesses. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, nothing really springs to mind as to a client that's been caught by a political change like that. And I should also say that there are international developments that are continuing to happen, continuing to occur, get harmonisation of treaties, for example, and in the intellectual property field, that generally ends up being in favour of applicants rather than against them. It usually expands the accessibility of international markets to these clients, and improves efficiencies. At the moment, there's something that's just been introduced called the Global Patent Prosecution Highway, where if you get a favourable examination report in one country, you can use that to fast-track your application through other countries. So, yeah, it's generally the changes that occur in the IP world are beneficial for clients.
I guess that leads me to ask a question that's happened to a number of small businesses in the Parramatta Chamber of Commerce network, where they've done the right thing and created, IP for their business, only to have a business overseas hijack it, perhaps, whether it be a domain name or, even a 1-800 number.
Yeah.
Because that would be catastrophic, as we were mentioning, for some small businesses to have their leads redirected to an offshore entity. What advice would you have for those small businesses?
There is, for domain name issues, there is a dispute resolution tribunal that's hosted by the World Intellectual Property Organisation. So there are remedies available, but ultimately, you have to show that you've got some sort of proprietary right to that domain name, or that someone's been cyber squatting or trying to steal reputation. Provided you have a good chain of title to a form of intellectual property, then you should be able to win out in the end, I suppose. Locally, a lot of businesses don't necessarily go about structuring their initial sort of setup properly. They go for a business name registration and think that, and a domain name registration, think that that's going to protect them, but what they really need is a trademark registration. So there's.
I just thought of some of our. Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry. I was going to say, but you're right. There are instances where international players can have a bit of right of priority, for example, and come in and take that away from a local entity. And it can work in the opposite as well.
I know of some of the WSABE Support Forum participants that would have raised up with the way our conversation was going then, so I wanted to throw that one in. But getting back to the fact, as you said, Damon, that most of the clients that you're dealing with are thinking far enough ahead. Anthony, is it a type of person that is more innovative than others in their business? Is it that you have to be a creative person so that you have that foresight, or can your average corner store owner make use of innovation in their small business?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's a question that gets asked a lot. I guess there's two types of mindsets. There's a fixed mindset and an open mindset. And if you're, regardless of whether you're in a corner store operator or even in a corporate CEO role, if you've got a fixed mindset, then you're not going to be open to anything creative or innovative or new. If you've got an open mindset, then yes, you'll embrace things a lot easier than someone who hasn't. And what we do, we make sure that regardless of who's in that room, we don't just ask, when we go in, we don't just ask, oh, can we have all the creative people in the room, please? Because a lot of the times people have learnt to be uncreative, and that's through school, through life, through business, because they're so focused on other things that, when we're kids, we get to ask the question why a lot, an awful lot, as you could probably testify, Michelle. And I think as adults, we forget to ask that question, but why, but why, but why? And through that, we lose curiosity and understanding. So in answer, I think it comes down to mindset. I think if you've got an open mindset, then you're going to be open to being creative. I think everyone can be creative. And what we do, we put frameworks in place, thinking frameworks in place to take people through that process. So they start to unravel the problem that's presented, or explore the idea or the product or service that they're trying to create a lot better than if you were just to, sit them down into a room and say, right, be creative. It's a bit like asking a pot plant to grow an extra centimetre just because you asked it to. It's not going to happen. You've got to put things in place, for people to be creative. So I think it's that environment that's important. Mindset is second, and I think what people want to see is results. So if you've done the hard yards, come creative, and then you want to see that idea come to fruition. So I think that helps as well.
That's great, because that brings us to our next question in the WSABE entrance for excellence in innovation, evidence of how your business is innovative. The tricky one. I can think of a great example, having been a Lego child or a child of Lego. My mother worked for them for many years, and one of my great frustrations as a teenager working at the Lego store was the fact that they weren't forward-thinking or innovative enough. They weren't open-minded, but I'm glad to say that after seeing the Lego movie on the weekend, I can see that times have certainly moved on since I was an employee of Lego. What other business innovations have you admired in the past, Damon?
Oh, pretty much anything that my clients develop. It's a great journey sitting down with clients and going through the story of where their innovation has come from, the identification of a problem or a need, and then the clarity of the solution that they devise. It's just, I know if it's, well, from my perspective, I get a little tingle down the, the back of the neck when, there's a eureka moment that's obviously apparent, and it's just terrific. So, so that's what I see happening, with every new client, every new innovation, and that goes right across the board, from medical devices, door hardware, architectural door hardware, mining applications, pretty much anything.
Great. And Anthony, you got anything to add to that, or evidence of how your business can be innovative?
Yeah, I was a Lego child as well, and I think that's the saddest part. I think we reference it as being a Lego child. Why aren't we Lego adults? In fact, we use
Lego adult then. Definitely playing with it on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. We actually use Lego sometimes in our creative workshops because it gets people's minds opened up, and they revert back to their childhood. And that when we're children, we're actually quite creative. We're not encumbered or hindered by any sort of preset conditions. That apparently there's 62 pieces per person for everybody on Earth. So, yeah. So our next big project is to work out what you can build with 62 pieces. I think the biggest innovation I've seen is around the whole design thinking. Design thinking purports that that you put empathy in what you do. So the products and services that you create, you bring it back to a customer or human-led thinking process. But then you don't stop there. You don't just look at them and find out what they've done. You then bring them into the ideation or the idea generation process. So you involve the customer alongside, the system engineer or the product developer or the marketing person. Everyone sits in the same room and basically builds the best product and the best service that suits the customer and the target market. And it's all driven from that human-centered thinking instead of being some sort of product that you just churn out another widget off a production line that's just marketed massively and means nothing to anybody. So I think that's the biggest thing over the next or last 5 years or 10 years. Over the next 5 or 10 years, I think we'll see more and more of that. We'll start to get products that actually have purpose and meaning and actually fit within our lives properly.
So Damon, you mentioned before how exciting it is to see the businesses go to that next level and witness their journey. So in line with what Anthony's saying, it really is about the gathering of humans together to create these amazing inventions or improvements to our lives. Is that true of the clients that you've seen? Is it a whole firm approach or whole company approach, or is it most common to be that mad inventor in the corner?
Well, plenty of mad inventors, loads of them, and they're an inspiration. But mostly it's small to medium size enterprises. So the person, the creator or the innovator, is either in charge of general sort of product development or new market sort of development. Or there's a team of 2 or 3 people actively working together. So that's usually about the size of, perhaps a small cluster, but otherwise, 1 or 2 people coming up with, the real core concept work, I suppose.
Okay, so to tie this all back to the WSABEs and say some of the winners that we've seen over the previous years, innovation doesn't have to be as high-tech or as high-level as we're talking, does it? It can be any examples of improvement and change. And I guess from what Gina Field said from the PN Regional Security last week, it's about telling a story and blowing your own trumpet and really getting the judges excited by examples of innovation in your business. Have you got any examples of innovation, either of you, that people might not think of being innovation or a new invention or anything, just something really simple and basic?
Most of my work is in sort of real technical innovation where you can look and see what the innovation is. But you're absolutely right. Innovation is right across the board. From technical through to artistic. Just different ways of doing things, different ways of presenting and perception. I can give you a whole list of good technical innovations, but a bit light on for the other.
We might jump to the next slide. Details of the commercialisation, adoption or take-up of the innovation and its sustainability over time. The big ask. I can see a lot of people stumbling on this question. How can we break it down for the people at home? Anthony, any suggestions?
Details of the commercialisation, adoption or take-up of the innovation and sustainability over time. It's a long question. I think the interesting... Sorry?
They have to say it, give evidence over 12 to 24 months in order to be a winner in this category.
So basically, so what's the best practice of doing that?
Yeah, what's some examples of that you've seen that might help our WSABE entrants in this category? It's a tough question, I think, this one, particularly if you're not in that technical, innovative space that Damon's talking about. We're talking about the average, small business that might be selling marketing or beauty products or home candles, something like that. How could they tackle this category?
Yeah, I think it might just come back to getting the customer to tell a story of how they were impacted by whatever the innovation piece was. So I think looking for the customer journey and the customer experience will help because at the end of the day, the proof has always got to be in the product. And I think if you can get enough stories to map the journey of how they were innovative over that period of time, then it starts to show that the product is working or what have they implemented in terms of innovation. Now, it doesn't have to be customers, it can be employees, it can be supply chain, it can be anyone who's connected to that innovation that they implemented. But I think documenting the stories of that journey and then showing the results as a result.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And there are going to be clear milestones that are passed along the way to commercialisation, from conception and reaching out and networking and finding the right market to the right placement. So, yeah, it is just a record of that journey. And then as far as sustainability goes, if they're still operating, then, that's pretty good sustainability. So it should be relatively straightforward, I would have thought, to map out that path and the milestones that were reached.
Right. Now, we've got an interesting question coming up here. I might just this one. Business innovation having a positive impact beyond your business. So obviously a lot of the examples we've discussed today are very high level, all about industry, all about community. One of the small innovations I've seen, particularly on Facebook, that's made a positive impact on community is crowdsourcing. Have you had many of your clients use that in a commercial way rather than, say, for your average musician trying to publish a CD? Have either of you ever experienced that where people are using crowdsourcing to support and build their business?
Not true. My business is a patent attorney, but certainly through Sydney Angels, there's examples of businesses that have managed to get secure funding that way to start their first prototypes up, and I think a recent one is Ninja Blocks, which is, they refer to the Internet of Everything, which are just sensors and devices that you can remotely control however you like across the Internet. And I think they raised about $750,000 recently to really get them a long way down that runway of getting their product commercialised and out onto the market. And
Anthony, do you think the business impact needs to be big, or have you got some examples of some small, impacts on community?
I was just trying to think of some examples. One might come to me. I think the important thing here is that when I worked at LJ Hooker, the big thing with the CEO at the time, Alan Lambert, he always used to say that whatever we came up with as a company had to benefit the industry as well. Because if you don't have an industry, then you don't have a company. And I think that's an important facet. Whenever you're developing something innovative or creative for your business, you've got to work out whether it's going to be an industry killer or it's going to be an industry enhancer. I think, you've got a lot of crowdsourcing companies online these days. I won't mention them because I feel that they're killing the industry a little bit. You know, where you get the same. So you might get a logo or you might get a design for $50, but in most cases you'll get it for $1 or $2. To me, that kills an industry because you're just tapping into a part of the world that are just so willing to build a portfolio that they're willing to work for nothing, basically. I don't see how that benefits. Whereas you've got, on the other end of the scale, you've got Kickstarter, who basically enable the crowd to fund new projects. And I think that's what I like about that model, is that the market will sort itself out in terms of, you know, what it believes in and what it wants to pay for something. So therefore, if the product is solid and viable and interesting and innovative, then the crowd will make sure that it gets to market. And I think, you know, the Pebble watch is the most famous one. I think it raised $3 million, and I think at the time it was only asking for $250,000 from memory, going by memory, which isn't always good. But they raised $3 million, and I think over $1 million. So it just shows you when you've got a good product and it's going to help not only the company, but it's also going to help the industry. And when we talk about industry, we also talk about not only your competitors in it, but the customer set that comes with that industry. When it enhances their lives, then it can be only a good thing. But if it suddenly starts to, you know, be detrimental to the industry, then the competitors will either turn on it or the industry will disappear. And I think, you know, you've got to weigh up how innovative it is, at short term or long term. And I think in order for it to be sustainable, it obviously has to be long term.
Excellent. So do you think there are any key ingredients to create a positive impact with innovation, for either of you? Are there any key essentials that need to happen for this impact on community and industry? Apart from, you know, the improvements or, you know, not being a killer to the industry.
I think
Damon?
No, go, Damon. Go, yep.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, I think any innovation that comes through with some improved efficiencies and value is going to have a positive impact across the board. One thing that springs to mind is environmental related inventions. You know, the business itself can probably, you know, flourish, but it's providing a much greater community impact as well.
Right. Anthony?
Yeah, I think it just boils down to having an open mindset and, you know, looking at what will be the greatest impact, you know, and where would the greatest impact be. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, you want to, obviously, you're in business for a reason, and it's, you know, we all have different purposes and beliefs and causes. But I think what you're really wanting to do is leave some sort of legacy. So with innovation and creativity, you want that open mindset to work out how it's going to benefit people. And I think that's the key. What is the benefit? Is it very short-sighted or is it long-sighted? And I think if you can focus on, obviously, things that make things better, I mean, that's what progress is, improving on what we have and making things a lot better than what they were. In all facets, I think that's the key to innovation.
So to answer one of our Facebook questions, our forum questions, ingredients to have a more positive impact innovation, from what you've said there, I think it's great: sustainable, efficient, improving productivity, environmental, and long-term benefits that create a legacy. So I think they're really great takeouts for our people listening today. It's great. I love the quote from Einstein. I looked it up not long before starting this webinar, trying to get a bit of inspiration to start the conversation. If at first the idea is not absurd, then there will be no hope for it. Have you got any other catchphrases that you live by for innovation? Damon? Or,
no, I don't. I don't.
Anthony, you're my open-minded, creative thought person. Is there any favourite quotes or inspiration that you have around innovation?
Yeah, not to take anything away from Damon, I think he's very open-minded as well and creative.
No offence, I just had lawyer in my head, sorry.
That's all right. I think his work with Sydney Angels is testament to that. No, I think, DeBono said, creative thinking is a skill that can be practiced and nurtured, and I think we strongly believe that as well. I think what, as I said before, I think people learn how to be creative, and they assign it to different types of people, designers, artists, musicians, and they forget that we all started off creative. If you think about, I'm watching my daughter for the last 15 months. She's very inventive and creative in the way she gets up onto the lounge or opens a fridge or works her way in through, a cupboard door that she shouldn't be allowed to be in. So I think, we naturally are creative and we're naturally inventive, and I think we've just, again, it's an open mindset, and what we do through Yellow Sneakers is just to give people that framework. It's a bit like a house. If you don't have frameworks for a house, it will fall down. So our thinking has to be the same. You have to put in certain frameworks around your thinking to be able to open up the ideas and the solutions. So I think, it's a skill that you just have to constantly practice and nurture.
Mm-hmm. And Damon, any other takeouts, last-minute advice for our WSABE entrants in the category of excellence in innovation?
Advice? Not really, but just following on what Anthony said, I do like the notion that innovation is all about just being creative and having an open mind, and innovation is everywhere. And I like to think it's kind of really apparent as well. Once you're made aware of an innovation, it speaks for itself. So hopefully applicants in sort of putting their submissions in will be able to, really clearly identify exactly what that innovation is.
Mm. Well, Damon, I think you've actually come up with the quote for the day. Innovation is everywhere. I love it. It's going straight to your face.
That's good. I like it.
Well, thank you both for participating in our discussion today, and I hope that you'll join us on the WSABE Support Forum to inspire and offer guidance to our entrants. So for those of you who aren't listening today and have come to us by way of other means, not through the WSABE Support Forum, you can inspire and share your knowledge at www.facebook.com/WSABE Para Chamber, and we'd love to see more participants on there, more questions. Of course, you can also join us every Wednesday from 4 p.m. until close of entries for various topics around the WSABE Awards. Don't forget that the benefits of entering, you get to promote your business and toot your own horn, as Gina was saying last week, and we'd love to hear more about your ideas either via email or on the Facebook page. So again, thank you everybody for listening.